Right. Uh, Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, grade 12 essential classes. Mr. Dirksen here. You should have seen the home finance booklet that I added uh, today, later in the evening. I also posted an exam review, which is kind of supposed to get you ready for the final exam, which is going to happen. Some of you are asking, are we going to have exams? And the answer is yes, it's going to be done online. And the date, the exact date will be announced shortly. We are discussing how the events are going to unfold and the details of administering these exams. But you can rest assured that there will be exams. All right. So if that's what something you've been wondering, some of you have been asking, then that's what it is. All right. So hopefully you've printed the home finance unit. I know it's a thicker booklet that I've put together, and it is really vehicle finance and home finance are two units that where we as teachers are left on our own, so we have to make our own stuff. Okay, so this booklet is comprehensive. It covers everything you need to know when it comes to home finance. I find it to be one of the most helpful and useful skills that you're going to need once you graduate, and you're probably going to forget everything else, but the home finance piece, that portion is hopefully going to stick, and same with vehicle finance. All right, how what is all involved in that and purchasing a home, which is quite honestly for a lot of us going to be the single most expensive investment that you're ever going to make, right? Sometimes it's just a once in a lifetime investment, and how can you protect yourself? Okay, how can you make wise decisions? So you're supposed to have this booklet, and there are some additional resources that you're gonna need. And these four tables are, it's a separate PDF because I usually when you're in my class, I would print this in a little booklet format, and there's a bunch of tables and charts, right, for insurance. There's two for insurance, and there's another one in the back. So you're going to need all of that stuff uh, to answer questions in this booklet, okay? And these are basically given to us by the province, okay? So home finance, what are we going to talk about here? Okay, well, let's do a little bit of a brainstorm here. We're going to cover mortgages. Sorry about that. Mortgages, and we only calculate monthly payments, okay? And so we're gonna actually calculate, right? Like how can you come up with an exact monthly amount on for your mortgage? Because let's face it, most of us are gonna basically borrow the money towards the purchase of a home. So it's basically a loan. It's a loan, but it is used to buy real estate. Okay, so it's usually an appreciating asset, right? So houses always keep on going up, right? So the value of a home, right? Normally, right? If this is the home you're buying, over time, right? That value is going to go up, right? It depends on the market. It depends on a lot of factors. Sometimes it's just a straight line linear growth, right? A shallow growth. Sometimes it's called exponential growth, right? So you have different rates of growth when it comes to purchasing a home. Okay, so another thing you want to know, so it usually appreciates, right? Appreciates. Okay, the opposite of depreciation. Remember, a car, the value of a car depreciates over time, so it loses value over time, right? So we're gonna kind of look at, right, if this is the value of your home. So let's say you buy a house for $200,000, right? As soon as you buy this house, right? Two things are normally happening, right? as time goes by, the value of the home starts increasing, right? So sometimes faster, sometimes slower, right? So this is where you started, right? This is your start. You start off owing 200,000, or if you have a down payment, you'll owe a little less, but the value of the home is increasing. And at the same time, you're paying off, you're slicing off every month, you're slicing off a little bit off of that owing balance, right? And these two values combined here, right? If you were to sell it right here at this point in time, you would be owing a certain amount, and at the same time, your house will be worth more than what you had before. That is called equity, right? And we're going to talk about that. And so that's called equity. Okay, that's going to be a right now, this might not make a lot of sense to you, but I want you to already start hearing these terms, right? Appreciates or appreciation. There is equity that one builds in the house, and that's actually one of the factors why you want to buy a house, because you build equity in it. Meaning that if you were to sell it right down the road, right, you wouldn't owe the full amount anymore. So for one, it's going down. The amount owing is going down. And on the other hand, the market over time, the value of your home is going up. So it's because you're decreasing it here and it's increasing there, the chunk that would go into your pocket would increase over time. Okay, because there's two forces here at play: the amount you're paying off, which is the principal, and the appreciation or the rate of increase in value of your home. All right, so that's something that I wanted to discuss here. We're gonna go buying. We're gonna talk about buying versus renting, right? Should you buy or should you rent? We're gonna talk about property taxes, right? Property taxes you can't escape. If you buy a house, you're gonna have to pay property taxes. We're gonna talk about additional costs of buying a home. When you buy a home, or even when you just own a home, there are additional costs other than just, right? We always think, well, there's my mortgage payment, there's the hydro, right? Need to pay for heating, electricity, gas, water, but there's a lot of other additional costs that come with this, like, right? So you have your utilities, which is we sometimes call hydro and water. Okay, you have your property taxes, right? You have right your cable, you have regular maintenance, and so forth. So there's a lot of additional costs that are ongoing. There is something called we have insurance. You have to have your house insured, right? Insurance in case of a fire, burglary, if a branch falls on your the roof of your house and that causes a leak or damage to your property, a window cracks, whatever the case may be, you want to have insurance, right? So these are ongoing additional costs, and these are ongoing, and then there's also one-time costs that creep up when you actually want to make that purchase, right? Um, so these would be considered ongoing, right? And then you also have additional costs such as transfer taxes. I am just right now brainstorming because it's important, because later on when we throw these terms at you, you at least will have heard of them before. Right? Land transfer tax, moving, right? Moving expenses, hire movers or whatever. Um, you have that. You have, it's escaping me right now. adjustments. Adjustments. Like when you move in, sometimes the owners before you have already paid for a portion of the insurance for the house or a portion of the property tax, whatever, then it's being adjusted so that you still need to pay for that, right? You need to basically pay them back for the portion they've already covered. So these are called one time. So there are additional costs that are ongoing, highlight that, and there are additional costs ongoing and one time. Okay. We're going to talk about maintenance. Maintenance, right? And there's something called preventative. There's something called preventative maintenance. So obviously the word says to prevent, right? Preventative maintenance. What can you do around the house to prevent major breakdowns? And then there's emergency repairs. Sorry. Emergency repairs. So if your furnace goes, right, that'd be an emergency repair. Uh, Paying for an annual checkup on your furnace to avoid emergency repairs, that would be a preventative maintenance item. So you have to differentiate between the two. If your water heater, uh, whether you like it or not, you have something in the home or in the apartment that heats the water, right? If you're living in a home, you're responsible for it. So if the water heater breaks, you have to replace it. It happened to me just a couple months ago, right? I noticed a leak in the basement. You need hot water, you need to go replace it, right? It's going to cost you. And so that's going to be that. So that's maintenance. And it always going to come back to buying versus renting. When you're renting, you're actually off the hook for a lot of the items, a lot of the maintenance items, property taxes, right? A lot of the utility items, right? Like your hydro water or your heating is included when you rent. You don't necessarily need to worry about maintenance as much, emergency repairs or preventative maintenance. That is all optional, right? Like often not on you, right? You don't have to worry about if something goes when you're renting. It's the landlord's responsibility to take care of that, to cover those costs. Okay. So we talked about a lot of things. I think the one that we will try to make you understand is the equity portion. The equity portion of the house is so critical to understand because that is ultimately, if you're thinking long term or retirement or whatever, that is the piece of the pie that belongs to you, right? So when we're talking buying versus renting, that is a big deciding point for a lot of people. They want to buy a house because then they build equity, meaning that the money they put in, eventually they're going to be able to reap the benefits and to get something out of it, because once you pay this off, the 200 grand, if you were to sell the house, you would not only get the 200 grand back, you would also get back whatever was built on top of that just through mere appreciation of your property. All right, real estate. So a lot of things here, a lot of concepts, terms, but they're so important for you to already have them and maybe add it to your study sheet, right? So you know what they mean, and you have a greater understanding, a general understanding of home finance. All right. So next we're gonna do some math, calculating monthly mortgage payments. All right.